teaching this class through Project Homeless Connect because for two main reasons. One is there's a lot more information I think that needs to be spread to the community about homelessness. I think almost everyone has an opinion about homelessness, but I'm not sure they have that much information, both about the realities of homelessness, some of the data that's just out there about who's homeless and where they come from, but also about what kind of programs exist in the community. And we just want to fill in a lot of the blanks here for people. The other reason we're doing this class is to get people more involved. I think a lot of people, coming from a lot of different perspectives, are thinking that something needs to be done about homelessness, but they don't quite know what would make sense to do. So one of the things we're talking about is getting people educated enough about what their choices are around these homeless issues, so that then they might choose to get involved in particular ways. One of the things we've had a chance to do in the class is talk about best practices. What are some of the new things that are going on in terms of homeless services or addressing homelessness in a community? And once we share those with people, I think they get more excited about the potential for them to have an impact and contribute to ending homelessness in our community.
You can't separate the politics from everything else about homelessness, and I'll respect what I'm being asked to do. Is just have to say, you have to understand that we live in a country where the federal government has abandoned, more or less abandoned, its commitment to affordable housing, where we decided to wipe out all the slums in America, so we don't have cheap, terrible housing that people could be indoors in. The alternative is back outdoors or in their cars.
It's a huge problem we have of creating policies that blind people out of our social fabric, that create homelessness and unnecessary amounts of criminals over nothing.
Namely, you can't push them away forever because the earth is round. So it's a nice way to visualize the fact that you can't push them away forever. And so the issue of generosity, hospitality, solicitude, one of my favorite words, which means attentiveness and consideration and concern and care and kindness. This all leads to civic virtue. The notion of citizen initiative that is kind of the basis of civic virtue is an extremely important thing. And I wish it were sort of spelled out better because it's not something you immediately think of because we're all so selfish. And civic virtue is such a kind of an abstract notion. But once we began the first shelter without any means, we had no budget, we had no plan, we just bluffed it. And it all came in. So that's the most remarkable thing about initiating something like that and then having people spontaneously respond with the needs that we had and that were fulfilled. That was an amazing experience.
There's I think a general view that has to do with camping issues. Whereas people think people should get services, what they don't believe is that people should be sleeping in cars in front of their house, or on the ground out there, or in the parks next door to them, or in the creeks that run behind their house. And the business people don't think people should be sleeping in their doorways or on the sidewalks near where their businesses are. That's a pretty strong view, and we've polled on that issue, and that's the majority of you still thinks that's a really bad idea. They don't like the idea of people camping outdoors. There's general support for the shelters. I mean, again, not everybody gives money, not everybody. There's still 20% of the town that would, drive the homeless out of town if they could do it. But my estimate, about 70 to 80% of the community supports homeless services. Does not think it's a problem if the city council spends public money on it and so forth. But they don't like the idea that there's going to be people sleeping outdoors around them. And in fact, there's a problem because it's a national issue, a regional and a national issue, that if you're the only town in the region or for reasonable distance decides it's okay to sleep out on your streets, you will in fact, I believe, attract a lot of other people to you.
Okay, so we're part of the Project Homelessness class at UCSC, and one of the things that interested me most about this class was it has a really large service learning portion of it. Part of our grade is 40 hours of community service that takes place at one of the homeless services projects here in Santa Cruz. And so I've been volunteering at the River Street Shelter.
And I've been volunteering at the clinic, also on Coral Street. And we both have different services we complete at our volunteering facilities. I take satisfaction surveys of the clients who go into the clinic.
And I cook dinner for the whole shelter on Mondays and participate in the art therapy session. And so that's just something that we do weekly that's a part of the class. And probably one of the most interesting things about this is I'm sure we all have experience dealing with homelessness in Santa Cruz. And so it's just really interesting to actually take a class and get credit on that and to be exposed to a lot of the truths because we get so many stereotypes in our daily lives. And so it's been nice to have some real information. And Dawn and Monica and Sam are all awesome teachers, giving us the truth about these really important issues.